Let's get ready to rumble!
All right, so James Talarico has defeated Jasmine Crockett, in the Texas bid for the Senate, right? And Stephen A. Smith I think he said he leans Democrat, but he's independent. But a lot of the things he said, it really leans towards Democrats. So he's really more interested in the Democratic Party. And he's actually going to take one stand about why James Talarico beat Jasmine Crockett. And then he's going to have someone else on, and then he's going to give him a different perspective as to why he thinks Crockett lost against Talarico. But let's go ahead and hear him first talk about why he thinks Jasmine lost.
Talk about all of these things. What it came down to Talarico versus Jasmine Crockett was style. Nothing else. That woman smart as a whip. Licensed to practice law in the state of Texas, Arkansas, and federally. She's been in the House of Representatives for years. Trump is spewing her name. She's got a national profile. She was far more known than James Talarico. He had to be introduced by members of the Hispanic community weeks before the election. They didn't even know who he was. So how'd he beat her? Styles make fights. And his style worked for Texans. Slice it any way you want to. It worked for Texans. Now, Jasmine Crockett has her own beliefs as to why she lost this election, but she was still class personified and congratulating James Talarico and calling him and ultimately putting out that tweet, and she deserves a lot of credit for that. She also can't help the fact that James Talarico was on Stephen Colbert's show on CBS February 16th, and CBS, according to Stephen Colbert, wouldn't allow him to air that interview, so they put it on YouTube. It accumulated over 5.5 million viewers and bumped his campaign dollars up an additional $2.5 million in a 24-hour period following what he called his quote-unquote censored interview. So understand, there are certain things that transpired that were completely and totally out of her control. But in the end, what it came down to was strategy and tone. While he positioned himself as a teacher in the Senate, injecting progressive Christianity and focusing on education, compromise, and building coalitions, she positioned herself as a street fighter who thrives on confrontation.
Right. And this is the big thing, right? When it came down to Jasmine Crockett, we've all seen the tweets, we've all seen the video. She comes out and just sounds very stupid in a lot of things she said. Talking about, we're still living in the plantations. She said that that there's modern day slavery with Hispanic people picking up fruits and vegetables out in the fields. A lot of things that Jasmine Crockett, and I'm surprised how Stephen A. Smith is basically giving her flowers when she literally called him a token, Uncle Tom. He made a whole episode. Remember when he got an episode, he got on Crockett, he got on Lemons, because these people claim that Stephen A. Smith is a traitor to the black community because he's trying to warm up to the whites and all of this. So I'm fascinated as to how Stephen A. Smith, who's also running, who if he runs for president, he will run as a Democrat. He would have to deal with these people, try to garner support. Even though Crockett, I would say, is kind of extremist. Now, he's correct that a lot of what Crockett focuses on is white people, racism, all this extra bullshit that I think people are just tired of, right? They're just tired of it. He says that Crockett can study law and all this shit. It doesn't matter, bro. People who have degrees doesn't mean anything. He himself has come on. Stephen A. Smith has come on and said, I wasn't the best student, and look at me now. Right. So clearly, just because she can practice law in different states, and she has the master's in degrees in it, doesn't necessarily exemplify that she's intelligent, right? She may be smart in the law, but she is not she just sounds really fucking out of it. She sounds like she's just a race baiting, just want to talk about Trump, race. And one thing about Talarico was, notice how Talarico's demeanor. And like I said before, and you watch some of the videos I've had on Talarico, you got to be careful with Talarico. People like Talarico, they sound nice, they smile, they have this pizzazz, but they're just spewing a bunch of bullshit. Right now, obviously, like I'm not from Texas, so clearly the politics that he was spewing, the things that he was talking about, right? And like Stephen A. Smith, he used a lot of progressive Christianity, which I thought we weren't supposed to use our faith and religion in these political things. I thought it was a no-no, but you hear him talk about Jesus, how Jesus is the immigrant, Jesus is the transgender kid. People liked his demeanor. David French just came out with an article basically saying that because Talarico is nice, he has a good decor, that's why people think that this is the type of Christian and they don't like Christian nationalists. When it came to the Crockett thing, Crockett just Trump bad, Trump this, Trump hates us, white people suck, white people are trying to keep us in chains, white people this and white people that. I think people just got tired of it. And she's running in Texas, bro. They don't want to hear that shit. They got plenty of Hispanic people. They got plenty of blacks. They don't want to hear this shit all the time. And basically a state that leans a lot to the to the Republicans. That'd be different if she was leaning to like California and shit. I think that's what I honestly think Crockett would have been a better politician in California, in Oregon, fucking in Washington, and all these other liberal states, but not in Texas. She invoked it way too much racism. She invoked it too much whiteism. She invoked it too much this nasty hatred. Always wanting to fight Trump on every little bullshit. Now, Stephen A. Smith in this one, right? He made this video a few days before the next one we're gonna see. Here he's saying that it's style that Talarico used to beat Crockett, right? His next guest, though, has something completely different to say about why he believes Crockett actually lost. Okay, so let's see if this guy changes Stephen A. Smith's mind.
Because if you take Williamson, Hayes, and Travis County out, she beats him by 58,000 votes. However, because her margins were not large enough in Dallas County, in Harris County, in Jefferson County is where Beaumont is. When you have a community where you have about 40 or 50,000 Black people and she receives 15,000 votes in that community, we left a lot of meat on the bone in Jefferson County. And so that is why Talarico was able to overcome in this situation. It was the execution of the strategies, not that either one of the strategies were better than the other, because the margin was not large enough to say that his strategy was so much better than hers.
Well,
so basically, he's saying that you got 40,000 Black people in this county in Texas. She only was able to garner 15,000 of those Blacks. Right now, from what I hear in this interview, he says that she garnered 80% of the Black vote. This is not surprising, right? This would not be surprising. And then she garnered like 30% of the Hispanic vote. But Talarico also made some good margins in that, and that Talarico actually made more margins with the whites, right? So the argument that Gary here is basically saying is that she didn't pull enough Black votes to help her basically close the gap with what Talarico was doing with the whites and the Hispanic, right? Because Gary basically says it's all about the tribalism, the tribe in the primaries. Out of 40,000, you can only get 50K. What does that say about Jasmine Crockett when it comes to certain politics and shit like that? For me, I'm not Black, but if Jasmine is constantly just referring us to like, oh, we can't get out of a certain spot because of slavery, and the excuse is always slavery, and the excuse is always that white people this and then white people that. As a Black person, I would get tired of hearing the same shit over and over again. It would be like me as an Hispanic person, basically saying, I can't achieve shit because white people want to deport me, even though I'm born in this country. As a Black person, would you not feel offended that a politician is trying to raise legitimate concerns about the Black community, right? Maybe about the poverty, maybe about the fatherlessness, maybe about social inequality, income inequality, whatever the case is that Black people prioritize as these things. If you have a politician whose only rhetoric would be white people are the reason why we can't achieve any of this bullshit. White people are the only reason why this can't work. The racist white president is the only reason why we can't do this. The white politicians are the reason why. as a black person, wouldn't you eventually start saying, okay, but do you have any more? Like, you just can't keep blaming a certain race for the bullshit of how things are working, right? You can't go to work and be like, well, I can't be a good worker because the manager's white or I work around white people. That shit doesn't fly. So for me, it's Crockett was just talking too much bullshit about, again, racism and stuff, and not really focusing on whatever priorities we're doing. And now, obviously, you still got 80% of the black vote, but that could just be for many different reasons, right? And part of it has become, if you're a Democrat and you're Democratic, you're going to vote for someone that is Democrat. In this case, they're going to vote for Crockett because, hey, Crockett looks like us, Crockett talks like us, and Crockett is basically saying the same thing. In the interview, they basically say Talarico didn't really go to the black vote because he knew that he wasn't going to make no dent in that, right? He knew for obvious reasons. Maybe he obviously would be like that. Talarico's not black, right? That he's not going to be able to relate. It's going to sound fake if he says certain things about the black community and stuff like that. So he just went to his tribe. He went to the things that he knows. Just like Crockett could not cross over into the white people and barely to the Hispanic vote because she had already made too much beef. She already classified a lot of white people as racist. Hispanic people she was degrading. So she already made a lot of headway, right? So let's see what else he talks about. I'm going to come over here.
Hispanic, it's not white, it's black people. And so if you know that you can get this cushion of the black vote, it's really the margins. And how do you grow your margins? I think that she needed to run her margins up with black voters so that she could advance to the end game. And that is where Talarico, in my opinion, if there was a thing he did better, he went straight after those white voters. He went straight after those Hispanic voters. He did not attempt to go after the black vote because getting the primary is about turning out your tribe. He understands, I've represented these people in this area for the majority of the time that I've been in office. This is where I have the most name ID. She's got bigger name ID. And she did beat him in almost all of the East Texas counties. And in some of those counties, she beat him 70, 80%. She got 70, 80% of the vote in those counties. It's really just a matter of, did you get enough money, time, and resources to put those people out? That's the real game. Those 30% of Hispanic voters was what she was going to get from day one.
Gary Chambers Jr. right here with Steven.
Right, you see that? So the thing is, Talarico knew that he wasn't going to get the black vote. And now Gary also makes the case that because James Talarico had $20 million and she only had $6 million and she came later in the race, that's really the reason why she lost. I think he's minimizing the fact that she cannot cross right into the threshold. She could not cross into the white vote and into the Hispanic vote, right? He said that she needed to make more margins with the black people. And that's what I'm saying. Is he taking into account that Jasmine Crockett just basically continued to use the white people is keeping me down to cripple, and maybe some of these black votes were like, yo, you know what? Bullshit. It can't just be white people always. It cannot just be racism, right? It just cannot always be this solution to just get rid of white people, get rid of every white politician, put more black people in power. It just can't be that. I think Gary is underestimating the fact that you would have these black voters, right, that eventually would open up, would think it, right? And I think there's a reason why anytime black people or Hispanic people vote in a different way, whether it be independent or Republican, a lot of the base goes like, what the hell? Well, you're Hispanic, you're Democrat, Republicans are racist, or if you're black, you have to vote Democrat. And my thing is this: some of us have woken up to that both parties are pieces of shit, right? And that the tactics of the Crockett thing isn't going to work, even though she may be a minority and I might be a minority, right? It would be the same thing if a Hispanic guy was saying the same shit. I'm not going to vote for a Hispanic guy just because he's Hispanic. I don't give a shit about that. It's about the politics. It's about the politics. So clearly, even though Crockett got 80% of the vote from the blacks, she still wasn't gaining enough traction to make that percentage go out and go ahead and do it. He also said that the reason why she probably went into the race, into the polls, or into the primary was because of the polls that she was seeing that people wanted Crockett to do it. My thing is like this, okay? So if she based it on the polls, then again, she's stupid. And Stephen A. Smith gave her too much credit. You're too late, and you're going based on a poll. And Talarico, he said, has been already doing it for a year. You should have started earlier, which tells me that Crockett probably didn't really have ambition to be in the Senate. She just did it because, oh, hey, a lot of black people are going to vote for you. And that's what she saw. And she forgot about the fact that she probably needed to pull some white people and some Hispanic people to help her out. But that's what really happened.
Nay, straight shooter with yours truly. Gary, you know, when I put it on Front Street, you know, listen, I've been criticized about things that I've said about Jasmine Crockett. And my whole point is I didn't want her to lose. I've always wanted her to win. And I recognize what potential she has as a representative out of Texas, practice the license to practice law in Texas, Arkansas, and federally. And I was mentioning months ago when the whole brouhaha took place that, look, you talk about the United States Senate seat. You ain't talking about 766,000 constituents. You talk about 31 million. All right, if you become one or two U.S. senators. But in order to win Texas, and I say Texas the way I say Texas for a reason. You know, so that's the South, that's deep South right there. I said, you're going to have to come across a little bit differently if you want to win. That was my belief system. You can call that assimilation or whatever. I'm just thinking you're trying to win an election. Those are voters. You got to go get them. Was I wrong in my thinking, in my assertions and thinking that?
I think so. And I'm going to give you a perspective from my election in 2022. When I ran against John Kennedy with Luke Mixon was a fighter pilot, Top Gun pilot in the military, went to West Point, great man. And he ran for office, a white Democrat. He was endorsed by our Democratic governor at the time. He raised $3 million, which I only raised $1.4 million. Folks told me that Luke Mixon was going to beat me in the race when we were in that situation. Luke asked me one day, Gary, why are you so nice to me? I said, because you can't beat me. Louisiana is 34% black, Stephen. What we have done as a strategy is tell black people that you got to go get that white vote in order to win, when the truth is you're leaving hundreds of thousands of black voters at home because you're not engaging them or prioritizing them. So if you have, it's really always numbers. Louisiana is 34% black, which means that I only need 15 to 20% of white voters to join me in order to win this election. When I ran, I got 40% of white Democrats. Luke Mixon got 26% of black Democrats. What I'm saying in that is, I was talking about black issues. I never had an event where white people didn't show up. I have learned that the white voters that we are looking for, they are chasing us down. They need us to go get our base out. And what we have failed at as black Democrats is prioritize the needs of black people in tangible ways so that we can stimulate and motivate them to go vote. We can't.
See, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think Crockett did a good job. And I say that because of the way that Crockett is. She's always blaming white people, stuff like that. And this is what I'm thinking, right? She just didn't appeal enough to the black voters, her own base, for her to beat Talarico, because I think, honestly, they probably just had enough of the black people themselves probably had enough of the bullshit that she's always making excuses for black people, always blaming someone else. What are you going to do to help us? That's probably the question. That's why it didn't, why they couldn't motivate, why her base couldn't mobilize, right? Regardless of whether she came in the race later, regardless of whether she had less money than here, she just wasn't providing solutions. You watch her clips of her in the House of Representatives when she's on committees. It's just straight stupid shit that she just comes out of her mouth, and people probably see that, right? Because people got X, right? People see clips of her and they're like, bro, all she talks about is white people bad, Trump bad, white people keeping us down, but she doesn't give us solutions, reparations, but nothing solid. And I think, honestly, Gary's giving his point, but I think to the degree is she doesn't provide good solutions for black people. And some of them saw that and they said, yo, fuck it. We're not going to really, fuck it. We're just supporting you because, we know who you are. And Talarico went out to his tribe and motivated them to go get him, and boom. But I think it was just interesting that Stephen A. Smith Style, maybe. But I think it really had to do a lot with Crockett just sucks. Sucks at helping Black people themselves because all her solution is black, black, black. But what do you think? Do you think Stephen A. Smith is right? Do you think that Crockett lost because of style? Or is Gary right? Is it because Talarico just had more money, more time? You know what I'm saying? Or is it that just Crockett just couldn't motivate anybody and she just had no good stance, no good policies, and just her overall, the way she carried herself out just didn't do any good. Let me know what you think about it, guys. Yeah, and we're gonna talk more about James Talarico. All right. Well, I'll catch you guys on the next one, guys. See you later.